How you doing, Willie Hall?
Fine, George. Good to see you.
Boy, drummer, boy, you are the man. You know, I knew you were around Memphis for a while. You came up from Florida somewhere.
Pensacola.
Yeah, and then you hooked in with the Bar-Kays for a minute, didn't you?
Yeah, my career got started after the demise of Otis Redding and the Bar-Kays. I was recruited in the group by the producer, Mr. Alan Jones, and I was asked to be the second drummer along with Mr. Roy Cunningham. And so by working at Stax, I got to meet Isaac Hayes and work with all the other artists there. So that's sort of how it got started.
But Willie, really what you're famous for is those Blues Brother movies.
Right.
You did 1 and 2.
Exactly.
And man, you knocked everybody out in those movies.
It was a pleasure, man, you know, hanging out with Cropper and Duck Dunn. And as a matter of fact, Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn were responsible for getting me that part with the Blues Brothers.
Oh, really?
I had been on tour with Levon Helm and the RCO All-Stars. And we had come back from Japan, and I got a call one day from Duck Dunn. Naturally, you know, if anybody know Duck, you can imagine what he called me.
Yeah.
And so they invited me to come out in L.A. and try out for the part.
And of course, it was a natural for you.
Oh, I love
Dan
it.
Aykroyd, John Belushi, and all those guys.
Yeah.
Now, in Blues Brother 2, was it Blues Brother 2000? That's what it was called.
2000.
You and was it Wilson Pickett? had a house of ill repute or something?
Wilson Pickett and Eddie Floyd, they had a 1-800. Actually, it was a call girl service.
Okay.
But I had a strip club, and it was called Willie's Stripster Club. It was a gentleman's club, as we call it.
But you had a nice part in that Part 2 movie.
Yeah, Danny was gracious to write some good stuff for me. In the first movie, I had a club, but it was just like a bar. But in the second movie, they extended everybody's part. You know, everybody grew from, like Matt Murphy, he and Aretha started out with a soul food restaurant, and in the second movie they ended up with a Mercedes dealership. So after 17 years, they upgraded everybody's part.
Willie Hall is our guest. He's one of Memphis' great drummers, and I remember one time Bill Justice, who had a hit called Raunchy, he said, GK, if he's a soul brother and he plays drums and he's from Memphis, he's great. Because we produced a lot of great drummers out of Al Jackson to start with, you know.
Al Jackson, Howard Grimes, Ronnie Tutt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Ronnie and I are good friends, and he's one of the greatest drummers to come out of Memphis.
Exactly. Okay, and Willie Hall, explain to the people watching us today and across America, because this show it slips across America somehow. I don't know, it gets out there. But
a great show, George.
Thank you. Tell me, Willie Hall, tell the audience, rather, the big difference between a stage show drummer and a recording session drummer. There's a big difference.
Well, the difference is energy, for one thing. You know, in the studio, you have time to go over everything. You can actually dissect every part of a song. You know, you can stop a song in the middle of it and start. You know, you can stop a song and start over. But on stage, it's all energy. Everything has to click. There's no room for error. But in the studio, you can stop and start over and manicure everything. But on stage, you've got to be full strength.
But you know, Willie, I've noticed a lot of times show drummers, as I call them on stage, they're not that great in the studio.
Well, it
they
depends
play too
on
fast or too loud.
It depends on your experience. Now, like I mentioned, Al Jackson, Howard Grimes, Ronnie Tutt, these guys were brought up, first of all, in the studio, and the transition from studio to stage wasn't that hard for them. But it's mostly in technique. You know, you have to be taught. I was fortunate when I came to Stax, I was 17, and Al Jackson brought me in and took me under his wings, and he taught me all the techniques. There are techniques in the studio. The engineers can take an old raggedy set of drums, like back in the days, you know, when we were young, the guys would play on cardboard boxes, you know, and the engineers would make them sound like real drums.
Wow.
But nowadays, there's technique. There's technique in sound. There's technique in playing. And so in the recording studio, like I mentioned, you have a chance to manicure your sound. And what I would do is, when we would start recording, I would always tell the engineer before we do a take, I said, make me sound good. and
they can.
Part of it, they do.
Hey, Willie Hall, great drummer, nice guy. He can talk. He's been out on my radio show a lot. Anything in the future? Are you going out on the road or anything?
Right now, I'm working on 2 projects. A friend of mine, Mr. Gregory Lawson, he just wrote what he called the Memphis Beautiful theme in honor of the spirit of Memphis. You know, behind the Forbes controversy about Memphis music, or rather about Memphis, Mr. Lawson wrote a couple of themes, one for Memphis Tigers, the Memphis Grizzlies. So I'm currently working with him on that. And then I'm producing an LP, a CD rather, on a group called Skyway. It's an R&B act.
Okay, good.
And, we're in the studio as of now. But let me take 1 second, George. I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done, you and all the people here at Memphis Sound. You guys have been tremendous in keeping us alive, keeping our memory alive, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, it's awfully nice. Thank you, Willie Hall.
Right.
You are a great legendary drummer, my man.
Thank God.
Willie Hall, George Klein, Memphis Sounds.